Year-end sales are just around the corner, and it's a great time to pick up a mechanical keyboard if you haven't already, especially if it's something that doesn't burn a hole in your pockets. Now, it's quite evident that more and more people are actually delving into the world of mechanical keyboards these days, especially the budget segment. Because first of all, they're actually preferring to buy something that is much more reliable than a membrane keyboard. Next, they're absolutely loving the typing feel and experience that they get with a mechanical keyboard. And the third thing is, believe it or not, they end up buying something that turns out to be a value for money investment in the long run. And believe me guys, that does turn out to be true most of the times if you do your research properly. Now, Redragon is a brand well known for their budget mechanical keyboards, and the K630 Dragonborn is their budget offering to the hugely popular 60% keyboard market. It's been out for quite a while right now, and if you're a keyboard nerd like me, you've probably heard that it's quite a good offering at the 2500 to 2600 Indian rupees price point. But the thing most YouTubers do not end up covering is how good the K630 actually is in terms of a beginner's keyboard. That is exactly what we'll be finding out in today's video. Now, spoiler alert, I in fact was not impressed with the sound of the K630. If you wanna know why, stick till the end of the video. Alright, so I'm gonna make it clear right now that if you're buying a mechanical keyboard, please make sure to buy something that is either fully hot swappable or at least partially hot swappable. Why, you ask? Well, here's a question to you. What do you think makes a keyboard mechanical in the first place? The switches, right? And if you're not utilizing the fact that these mechanical switches are actually independent to each other, what's the point in going for a mechanical keyboard in the first place? I have seen people who discard their mechanical keyboards altogether because only one switch has gone bad. Either it's not registering the keystroke or giving ghost touches. And that can happen due to a multitude of factors. Either there's dust accumulation on the switch, or you might have spilled something on your keyboard, or both. No matter how much waterproof a brand is claiming its keyboard to be, if a switch has gone bad and the switches are actually soldered to the PCB, aka the keyboard is not hot swappable, it's tough luck, my friend. Now, coming to the K630, it is hot swappable, but like I mentioned earlier, it's partially hot swappable. You can only use Outemu's or certain Akko switches with this keyboard. But keeping that aside, if a switch is broken, you can just take it out, pop in a new one, and your keyboard will remain functional. No stupid RMAs, no throwing away of keyboards, meaningless or e-waste, and you can actually pat yourself in the back for doing something good for the environment. Next up, let's talk about the build quality of the K630. For the price point, I would say it's quite decent. Don't expect metal builds right here because it's mostly plastic, and the only metal aspect of the keyboard is the plate over the PCB. And I must say here that the K630 is really lightweight. Unlike its older brother, the K530, you don't get any batteries inside or components for wireless connectivity, so lesser components meaning lesser weight and easy to carry. Also, since the form factor is tiny, you can actually slip this into your backpacks and quite easily carry along with you, and you never have to sacrifice the beautiful mechanical typing experience ever. Now, the typing angle of this keyboard is quite good to begin with, and honestly I had no issues with typing fatigue at all with the K630. But if you do want some elevation, you do get these flip-up risers that you can use. And by the way, if you're wondering what this red LED to the left is for, it indicates whether you have your caps lock turned on. Okay, let's talk RGB. Yes, this keyboard has plenty of effects to satisfy your wildest fantasies during gaming, and not only that, the RGB on the K630 is also very bright and vibrant. I do wish the metal plate was white here, but still it does a decent job with the lighting. Also, the K630 does allow for perky lighting with the Redragon software, and it also lets you configure macros if you're into that. Okay, take a deep breath right now, because from now on what you'll be hearing are the things that I absolutely hated about the K630. First up, why is the USB port shoved into the left-hand side of the keyboard? Redragon could have easily put it at the top left of the keyboard, or at least in the center like all the other manufacturers. That way, in the future, you could have used custom coiled cables with your keyboard, like my Outemu K630 for example, but in the case of the K630 right here, tough luck. Next up, why is the keyboard so lightweight? Now, don't get me wrong right here, I'm never asking Redragon to make it weigh like a mountain or include gasket PCBs, pour-on case foams or things like that. But at least they could have added some kind of damping inside to fill out the hollowness. It could have made the keyboard sound much better. Next, let's talk about these ABS keycaps. Now, I would say these are decent for the price with clean legends and good light pass-through for illumination, but I'm sure Redragon could have included keycaps that were a bit thicker. They could have improved the typing sound to a great extent, but also the keycaps themselves could have been a whole lot durable. Now, with the K630 here, what you're getting is actually a combination of a hollow keyboard with unlubed switches and stabilizers with not so good quality keycaps. The result, you ask, is definitely a keyboard that doesn't sound quite good from the factory. Take a listen for yourselves. Now I don't know about you guys, but that sounded quite terrible to me. I can literally hear the K630 asking me to mod it to make it sound a whole lot better. And you know what? That is exactly what we'll be doing in the next video. So definitely stay subscribed if you do not want to miss out on that. Alright, so the K630 is definitely not a perfect keyboard. It does have its fair share of pros and cons, but at this price point, I find it somewhat to be a decent offering. If you talk about whether you should get it or not, here's what you need to know. Being a 60% mechanical keyboard, the K630 has a lot less keys to work with. If you're into coding, I don't recommend getting the K630 at all as your primary keyboard because the cursor control keys and arrow keys, I would say, are a must-have for coding. You cannot just rely on combinations with the function keys each and every time. Now for me personally, I would say a 75% keyboard would be kind of like my sweet spot. If I want something a bit smaller, then probably a 70% or a 65%, but not smaller than that. But let's say you are someone who is an avid gamer, which is the main targeted demography of the K630, or someone who loves typing in general with no need whatsoever of the home row keys or the function keys all the time, then I'd say you can definitely go with the K630. This is also a great keyboard to consider as your backup keyboard, or if you want to mod it like I'm gonna do in my next video. So if you want to check out the K630 or probably the K530, you can check out my Amazon affiliate links down in the video description, and buying using my links means that you're supporting me and my creativity at zero extra cost to you. Now I've reviewed quite a few interesting keyboards this year, so if you're into mechanical keyboards, then this is what you should be watching next up.